We've all seen the news reports out of Israel about how Hamas attacked unarmed civilians in Israel. I want to talk a little bit about why were those civilians unarmed? Let's talk about Israeli gun control laws. It's crazy. Wait till you hear what they are. Stay tuned. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Box Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and author of Disarm, What the Ukraine War Teaches Americans About the Right to Bear Arms. As you'll shortly see, the book could also have been taught, or labeled, I should say, What the Ukraine War Should Teach Israelis About the Right to Bear Arms. It appears that that lesson has been lost on them so far. All right, folks, so we've all been seeing the terrible news out of Israel, the loss of innocent lives by an attack by Hamas on Israelis, unarmed citizens. And what I want to talk about here is why were those Israeli citizens disarmed, by and large, right? Why were they disarmed? I mean, isn't Israel in the Middle East surrounded by enemies, 100 million Arab-related countries, and Iran, always at risk of being shoved into the sea? Israel was founded as a country that was specifically descended from, the victims, the survivors of the Holocaust and the family members of the victims of the Holocaust. So it seems to me that if there's one country in the world should be extra sensitive to ensuring their population is fully armed and ready to defend itself, it seems to me it would be Israel. But it turns out, having done a little bit of research here on Israeli gun control laws, I was really shocked to see how the lessons and the dangers associated with disarmed populations that we saw in Europe in the mid-20th century, that lesson of making sure that your population of civilians is not disarmed appears to have been entirely lost upon the Israeli political leadership and the Israeli government, which is utterly shocking from a country and a group of people that always talk about the notion of never forgetting, as I agree with that concept of never forgetting, for example, the victims of, the Holocaust in World War II, but also never forgetting the lessons that we should be taking away from that experience, including the dangers of having an unarmed population when a government turns on you, when a tyrannical group of foreign invaders turn on you, and so on. But nevertheless, I just want to talk a little bit about Israeli gun control laws so you understand what we never, ever, ever, ever want to have here in the United States. Because as I've told you before, and you know this, dumb people do not learn from their own mistakes. Smart people learn from their own mistakes, and wise people. And if you're watching the Four Boxes Diner channel on a regular basis, I consider you to be a wise person. Wise people learn from the mistakes that other people make. So let us here in the United States learn from the unfortunate mistakes made by the Israeli government in not ensuring that their civilians could have their own private arms to defend themselves in the unfortunate and unexpected event of being attacked by Hamas, which frankly should not have been that unexpected. Nevertheless, let us continue on. Just to let you know where the Israeli mind is at, I'm going to give you the title of an article from 2016. In this article, which I'll put a link to down below, this is in the Jewish Post, jpost.com. This is the title of the article. Quote, for or against easing gun controls. Neither side wants an Israeli Second Amendment. The Likud minister says giving more trained Israelis guns would be a force multiplier for the IDF and the police, also known as the government forces, which apparently the leftist, I think that's what he is, a minister on the left, worries that once more guns are out there, we don't know where they'll go. So it seems to me that when the Israelis contemplated having a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, they rejected it. Indeed, they did. You're going to find this crazy. Let me give you some of the gun control laws that are on the books in Israel that denied, really, for all intents and purposes, Israelis to have the right to keep and bear arms in any kind of in a real way. To begin with, an Israeli can only obtain a gun if they live or work in a settlement area or are in a profession that uses guns. Again, I'm going to put a link to the authorities that I was able to find, and you can double check me and correct me if you think I got something wrong here. Obviously, you need a license to manufacture, to import, or export guns. You need a license to possess and carry guns with a good cause requirement, such as self-defense or hunting. Sound familiar? Good cause to carry a gun? What is it? New York City and Israel are one and the same? Well, it certainly turns out to be the case, because according to this Jewish Post article, newspaper article from several years ago, here's what the article says, quote, in Israel, where there are 7.3 legal civilian-owned firearms per 100 people, according to Research Institute Small Arms Survey, gun ownership is treated like a highly regulated privilege, not a right. Did you hear what I just said? In Israel, private firearm ownership is treated like a highly regulated privilege and not a right. To buy a gun, Israelis must obtain a license via the Public Security Ministry, which they can only get if they meet certain criteria, and can only buy guns at licensed gun shops. So let me carry on with some of the other requirements associated with gun ownership in Israel, and you'll see why. It seems to me they were unarmed citizens. Bad idea. Bad idea. Never forget that unarmed citizens is not what you want. You subject them and put them at risk of tyranny in all its forms, whether it be a tyrannical government or tyrannical foreign invaders or tyrannical street criminals or tyrannical terrorists or even tyrannical animal attacks. We often have talked about that's what the Founding Fathers said. And remember, this is exactly what early Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story said. And Joseph Story was known as an important freedom-loving early Supreme Court justice who wrote the Amistad decision, which you all know from the Steven Spielberg movie by the same name, Amistad, where the African slaves rebelled and took over a Spanish slaver ship, and it was Joseph Story, the same man who thought that the right to keep and bear arms was the palladium of human liberty, was the palladium of the American Republic, the safeguard of the American Republic. It was the same Justice Joseph Story of the U.S. Supreme Court that freed those slaves and said they had every right to use violence and to rebel against the Spanish slavers. Nevertheless, the Israelis have ignored the lessons of Joseph Story, and in my view, the lessons of World War II and the lessons of 20th century Europe, by not making sure that all their citizens had a right to keep and bear arms like we have here in the United States. Let me carry on. The other license there, you need a license to operate a gun range. You need licenses. These are personal. They're not transferable. They may be subject to additional restrictions imposed by a licensing officer. You have to register your guns. All rifles are banned. No such thing as an AR-15, AK-47, or the like, which is kind of weird because if you think about it, how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans own, let's say, Galils or Tabors in their closets right now? And it's funny that it's kind of ironic. I know, sure, it's funny. It's really tragic if you think about it. More Americans have Israeli-based firearms than Israelis do, when in many respects the Israelis need them as much as, if not more so than Americans, because, of course, they are surrounded by 100 million potential enemies. But let me carry on. Also, you have to surrender the firearms to the police upon the expiration of a permit to possess. When a police officer believes a firearms offense has been committed, he may seize and retain your gun. There is mandatory reporting of lost or stolen guns within 48 hours. There's mandatory reporting of lost or stolen licenses. There's mental and physical health requirements for a license, including a mental fitness determination by the Ministry of Health. That sounds like a HIPAA violation to me. Criminal background checks, which considers health, mental health, and criminal records. Training requirements, including a theoretical exam and practical shooting requirements. And I go on and on and on. And by the way, firearms must be stored unloaded and separate from ammunition. Now, this is simply stupid in my opinion. But remember, we're talking about this, although the Israelis should learn their lessons 100%, I am talking to you here in the Second Amendment community because this world is the exact world that anti-gunners like Senator Chuck Schumer want us to live in, where this is right to keep and bear arms is a privilege and not a right. And you need to know what the anti-gunners want to do and the world they would like to create if they could. And they can't, because we have the right to keep and bear arms, we have the Second Amendment, and we have a lot of other reasons. And of course, we also have the guns. Nevertheless, let us continue on. The point here is this, that the consequence of not allowing your citizens to have free and robust right to defend themselves, to me, is seen in the Hamas attack, the consequences of it in Israel. People ran into safe rooms. In my personal opinion, you can disagree with me, a safe room is designed for those that cannot fight back. Children, family pets, women, the elderly, again, the disabled, people that are not really physically able to fight back against threats. That is the purpose of a safe room, to buy time. But if you're able-bodied, an able-bodied man or an able-bodied woman, and you're so willing, to me, the right to fight back, the right to self-defense, the right to a firearm is a fundamental human right. But here in the United States, we just have to worry about it being a fundamental constitutional right. But the truth is, to me, it's a human right. But again, here we only have to worry about it being a constitutional right and defending our Constitution because our founding fathers were smart enough to put it in the founding document. But what's perplexing to me, again, is that here you have the Israelis, where the entire country was formed after the terrible tragedy, the terrible, horrifying events of the European Holocaust in World War II. And somehow one of the most fundamental lessons that we should never forget, in addition to, of course, remembering the victims and the and the violence and the thuggery, the evil that went along with this, but one of the other critical things we must never forget, maybe the most important thing to never forget, is that disarming your citizens, disarmed citizens are vulnerable to that kind of mass violence, mass murder. Because an unarmed population is a lot easier to control, murder, rape, and brutalize than an armed population. And it is perplexing to me that the Israelis seem to have forgotten this fundamental historical lesson and have put their faith in their government. And there's nothing wrong with the IDF, Mossad, their intelligence. That's all fine to have. No one's saying they shouldn't have any of that. But why they wouldn't have a robust private right to keep and bear arms, where Israelis can have, by the way, also the requirement is you could only have 50 rounds of ammunition. Did you hear what I just, 50 rounds of ammunition in a home with your gun? They just recently expanded it to 100 rounds. Now, this is an absolute joke, in my opinion, because I think I have more than 50 rounds probably in and around my nightstand on any given night. And I'm not even considering myself a huge gun guy. I'm just a basic gun guy. I think there's a lot more of you out there that are even better and bigger gun guys than I am in terms of the types of weaponry that you've had experience with and have used. Not that I'm terrible, but there's a lot better people when it comes to the specifics of guns than I am, because, of course, I'm really a lawyer and a Second Amendment guy, and less of a gun technology guy. I never was in the military or anything, so you get the point. But again, it's really shocking to me that the Israeli government and the Israeli politicians do not want all of their members of their community, all their citizens, to have the right to keep and bear arms. It just seems stupid not to do this, especially where they're located in the world. Again, let me know if you disagree with this. I'd be happy to explore this issue further, but I wanted you to bring you up to speed. So as you're watching these terrible stories of the victims of this attack, ask yourself, wouldn't they have been better off if they had guns? And isn't this another example of you are your own first responder? And that applies not just to Americans in America. It applies to all people around the world, including, as it turns out, to Israelis, to Israeli citizens who are their own first responder. Because it's obvious that the Israeli government was not there for them. And by the way, when the Israeli government and the Israeli soldiers make comments like, we're out for revenge, okay, well, revenge may be perfectly fine, but that doesn't bring back the lives of the people that were murdered because they were defenseless against an attack. Revenge is fine, in my view, but it doesn't replace, or it's not a substitute for staying alive in the first place. It is better to be alive than to be dead and have someone trying to avenge your death. That's my view. Let me know if you disagree. All right, folks, hope you learned a little bit something here today about the lessons that I think we Americans can learn from issues and events that have occurred overseas about our right to keep and bear arms. And again, don't forget to follow me on X at 4 Boxes Diner, and we'll see you again soon here at the 4 Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.